Hey everybody, how are you? Hello. So it's just after 7. You hear the jazz? Yeah, a little bit of atmospheric music. Hey Myra and Hootsie and Bridgewater, I've had crazy allergies today, so I might be like a little bit, I don't know, puffy. But I'm really glad to be here. It's Tuesday night, and let me know if the ambiance is like, I think it's okay. It makes me feel good. I like it. I like it a little jazz to get us going. So it's 7 o'clock, a little bit after, and the light, the days are getting longer, and so the sun sets later. And I'm sitting in this beautiful room at our lake house, our family place in Wisconsin, and I'm set up sort of near a window. And I don't know, I think it's okay, but I don't know. The light will probably change a little bit. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but it'll be all right. Robin's Nest, make a note on your sheet to edit the slideshow and take out the Thursday show info. That is a very good, a good point. There's many things I have to change because the schedule has changed. That's like a post-it note. Change slideshow. Oof, that's important. Yeah, I will know what that means. Yes, Mother's Day, and change that slide on the slideshow. Hang on one second. Okay, so yeah, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. It's Tuesday night, and I have some really great quilts to show you, and one of my favorite quilt artists is going to be featured on the show tonight, Jean Hewes. Hey, a nun maker, and it's okay. Oh, the light is beautiful. Thank you, Sokay. It's okay. It is Sokay, right? I mean, it's okay. It's okay. Everything's okay. Bonnie got cleaned up. She cleaned up at an auction. Wait, I saw it, and now I have to go back and look. Thank you so much. Thank you, Eric. So I want to make sure to see where you were and what you got. It sounds like you got a lot of good stuff and some Quilters newsletter magazines. Oh, I've got a poll. Let me put the poll up, because this weekend we have a Quilters newsletter Friday on Friday night, and I'm going to ask you which decade would you like to hang out and look at, an issue from what decade. And so on Quilters newsletter Fridays, I scan in an old issue of a really great quilt magazine. And hey, my great cats, thanks for subscribing. I appreciate you. The subscriptions are something I'm really going to be focusing on in the coming months. And I really appreciate all my subscribers, so much. You don't even know. It makes me really, it encourages me, and it makes me feel like I'm on the right track. You know what I'm saying? And I hope you like the content of Quilt Nerd. And if you do, subscribing is a great way to support the channel. So thanks. So, yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, Quilters newsletter Friday. So I just put up a poll. We like to read an issue of Quilters newsletter every other Friday, and look back at what the quilt world was like in the past, and how it's changed, and how it's grown, and all that good stuff. So yeah, let me know what decade you'd like us to take a look at. Hey Threadist, Mother Nature, and Robin. Thanks, Robin's Nest. All my mods, I really appreciate you. Saucy Stitcher, Myra. I'll say hi to folks as we go along. Pam, hey. So what I'm gonna do, so I've kind of made some adjustments to the schedule. I've made some adjustments to format, playing with different things. I have announcements, I have stuff to share, and we have a really cool show. I loved the show on Saturday, by the way. Saturday night was like, I don't know, it felt extra good, we had some really good stuff. So before I go too much more into chatting and things, because we have the opportunity to do that throughout the show, I want to get into the intro quilt. Myra, thank you so much. You're a stan. You're a longtime subscriber, and I really appreciate you. For 8 months, you've been a subscriber here, and that's just amazing. And Bridgewater, you also mentioned that I need to change that slide, so I will. Yeah, because there's an update on the schedule, so we'll talk about it. But first, look let's talk about the quilt behind me. When I was arranging things and getting things together, I saw some people look at who mentioned Gwen Marston. How I mentioned Gwen Marston in the title of the show. When I go live, it has me. Let me just do this. It has me give a title to the stream, and sometimes that'll change, when I put the episode up on YouTube or whatnot. But I have to give the stream a title, and I mentioned in the stream that Gwen Marston would be involved in the show tonight, and indeed she is, and Joe Cunningham as well. So there is a quilt here that you see. Hey Padma. So the quilt that you see was made by Joe Cunningham and Gwen Marston. It was made for a book that they wrote. The book that they wrote that this quilt appears in is called Quilting with Style, and it was published in in the early, I think it was 1980, but I could be wrong. It could be before that. Let's see. Or no, not 1980. Hang on one second. 1993. Okay, sorry. I was looking at the quilt. This quilt was made in 1981. So this book came out in 1983. And let me just show you the book that it appeared in, Quilting with Style. And it was interesting to look at some of these quilts in the book. And I'll give you an affiliate link in just a minute. Hey, MC John. Well, I love you. It's good to see everybody. So this quilt, it was published in this book, Quilting with Style. Hang on. I have an amazing picture to show you of Gwen Marston and Joe Cunningham as young, just whippersnappers, really. This book, Quilting with Style, Principles for Great Pattern Design, published in 1993. And Gwen Marston, there's a lot to say about both Gwen Marston and Joe Cunningham in the world of quilts. And I feel like sometimes these people, these like legendary people, it's sort of overwhelming to make sort of a chapter of Quilt Nerd of any episode about one of these people, because they contributed so much to the quilt world. And in the case of Joe Cunningham, are still contributing to the quilt world. Hey, MC John, thank you for subscribing. You've been subscribing for 7 months. That's your champagne cork. Yeah, appreciate you. Thanks. I do. Little Bird Stitch, how's it going? Stitch and Deb has this book. It's a great book. Hang on one second. I gotta turn this light on. Hang on. So Gwen Marston passed away. I'm still here. I haven't gone anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. So Gwen Marston passed away in I believe it was 2018. Quilt Folk did a story on Gwen Marston at her home in Beaver Island, not too long before she passed away. And I'm pretty sure that was in 2018. It was in the Michigan issue of Quilt Folk. And so I was at her house on Beaver Island in Michigan, and amazing. If you are a Quilt Folk subscriber and you have that issue, I think Michigan is really one of the best issues that we've made. While I was editor, I certainly think it was one of the best that we produced. And the story about Gwen was one of the last, stories, on her before she passed away. She was a visionary, a genius quilt maker, and she worked with Joe Cunningham for many years. They were partners throughout the 1980s. I don't know exactly, how long they were together. They did split up somewhere along the way and went their separate ways. Joe Cunningham is alive and well and living in San Francisco and making incredible work. So I'll talk more about Joe, of course, in the future. He's a friend of mine. I went and saw him in San Francisco and talked to him a couple years back about the documentary project. Got to spend some time with him, met his wife, had a really good dinner at his house, and with Julie Silber and Rod Kirikoff. Actually, that was a really great night. So I want to talk more about Joe. I want to share more of his quilts. But as I was looking at different things tonight, I had this book, this one here, on my archive.org list. And let me put the affiliate link here for this book in case you want to get it. It is at archive.org, so you can look at it there. But if you feel like, hey, we did a hype train. Oh my God. Thanks, everybody. You know what? I appreciate that. I do. Yeah. I think I come on here and sometimes and say today's been like up and down, like exciting and, sort of, I don't know, that the emotional like landscape of the day has been like up and down. It's one of those days. I think I kind of have those days. Hey, 5Z gifted a tier sub to Melty. Melty, welcome to Quilt Nerd. We have a good time. We nerd out on quilts here, and that should be apparent by now. But if it isn't, stick around. You're subscribed now, so you have no excuse. Anyway, so I was looking at this book. Here's the affiliate link for this if you want to get it from Abe Books. That's great to get it through this. quiltnerd.link/quilting with style. And you'll see as I go through SJ Pepper. Yeah, it's coming early. The flex, the Abe Books flex. Looking at this, I just saw a few quilts that I just loved, and this is one of them. And I'm going to read to you what they have to say about this quilt in the book. What's interesting is I was looking at Cunningham and Marston's work together, just kind of making notes and making a folder of things. I didn't know how many books they wrote together. They wrote many. I've got the covers of a few of them to show you. I didn't realize how many books they made together. And I didn't, this sounds terrible, but like, I didn't know how really good at quilting they were. I mean, I know more about Joe's work and about Gwen's work sort of separately than I know about what they did together, because it has been a while ago, Castle Crips. Castle Crips says, I'm here, but I'm helping a friend move, so I'm also not here. I completely get it. I mean, you got to listen, help your friend move. And then when she's settled, tell her this. Okay, this is the best advice I have. Maybe the best advice I have, like, period. Like, this is like my number one advice. My mom told me, because of course, your mom tells you, hopefully your mom gives you good advice at some point, right? So my mom always said, when you move into a new apartment, the first thing you need to do is unpack your sheets and your pillows, and you need to make your bed. Because then, no matter what you've got to deal with, no matter what the chaos, is doing to you, and like, no matter how crazy it is in that new place, and even if you don't unpack anything else, like your toothbrush would be good, but make your bed. Make your bed. And so at the end of the day, you have a place to go and sleep and get a good night's sleep. And I think that's pretty good advice. And I've done it every time I've moved anywhere. And you know what? I've moved a lot. So if your friends like doing stuff, make the bed for her or him, whatever. Either way, it's really good. Don't read ahead. Exactly, SJ Pepper. I think it's pretty good advice. I hope that is something you can put in your pocket, Anyway, so I'm looking at these quilts and this one, which by the way, I can tell you this is called variable. Hold on just a minute. It is called, I have it up here. Variable Star Medallion. It's 82 by 88, and it was made in 1981. And they say of this, this is Cunningham and Marston. They say, we copied this quilt from the book A Gallery of Amish Quilts by Bishop and Safanda. I think it's Robert Bishop and Safanda. One reason we found the quilt so interesting was that each border had its own quilting pattern. Okay, so like really pay attention to that. They did the same thing. Each border here, and there are many, has its own quilting pattern. At the time we made this quilt, we decided for some reason we did not like the design on the purple border. So we used the finger feather. Can you see that finger feather? Isn't that wonderful? It's just wonderful. M. Sujan, hello. Wait, I think I said hi to you. I don't care. I'm saying hi again. Yeah, the book is really interesting, M. Hicks, like super interesting. Hey, L. Riggs. Hello. It is good advice, right? It's great advice. Jay Dansura, as a professional organizer and move manager, I endorse that advice. I love it. So, other than that, other than using the finger feather, we tried to copy existing designs like this. We learned a great deal about quilt marking. We tried plastic template making. We made paper templates, trying to keep the lines straight in the middle. We invented our angle keeper. We rigged up a light table for tracing. Experiences like this have convinced us that the best way to understand old quilts is to make copies of them. Pretty cool, right? Like, I would say that's a pretty cool thing. And I mean, it reminds me of what artists do in art school, right? You know, painters will copy the masters, you know, and get their experience, you know, understanding painting by understanding Matisse or understanding Cassatt, you know, redoing paintings that have been done before to understand how the artists who came before them understood light and so forth. So I think that's pretty legit, you know, that they remade the quilts. Jaden Sir, thank you so much. Thank you for subscribing with Prime for 6 months. We appreciate you. And a champagne cork. I mean, obviously. So yeah, so that's, I mean, it's fantastic. It's a great quilt. It was a great quilt originally, you know, initially, and it's a great quilt now. And this, so I've got a few other quilts from that book. Okay, I'll just show you those first. This one is really great. This one is a, let's see, what is it? It's Danae. It's called Danae. And it's interesting to look at these quilts because, like I said, you know, there's so much to say about Gwen Marston. There's so much to say about, hang on one second. I'm going to fix that little blip. So there's so much to say about, you know, Gwen Marston and Joe Cunningham individually, and separately. But, you know, this early stuff to me is like, I don't know, it's like looking at different artists in a way because they were working together and they were so, they were really active. And like I said, I didn't know quite how active they were in terms of book publishing. Let's see here. Yeah, I think that'll fix that little weirdness on my camera. I think so. I think it will. Yeah, I think it will. So, you know, when you look at the work of Gwen Marston as her career goes on, I mean, who here has taken, I know my great cats, right? Hey, Susan. Who has taken a class, who took a class from Gwen Marston or Joe Cunningham? I mean, they're really, Gwen was a very active teacher. I'm pretty sure Joe's teaching a lot still. Look at this cathedral window quilting down here. I mean, as you look at Gwen Marston's quilts, you know, over the decades, like, I don't know. I mean, she's just such a hero to the modern quilt people because of her use of solid colors and her improvisationally pieced work. Very graphic, very bold stuff. Joe's work gets way more, I mean, to say abstract isn't really right, but he is pretty painterly. I would say Joe Cunningham's work is pretty painterly. Now I really want to talk about Joe Cunningham soon because his quilts are really cool. But these older quilts they're like a different, they're different. They're different from either one of them working on their own. This is pretty interesting. Thread has said, I've studied with Joe a lot, 2013 to 2016 or so. Really? That's cool. That's really interesting. Hey, Molly. M. Hicks says he did a lecture not too long ago for the Portland Modern Quilt Guild. Amazing, amazing, but haven't taken a class. Would love to do a class with him. He's really cool. That's the other thing about Joe. He's just like super cool. So yeah, if you get the opportunity to take a class with him, even if you don't see yourself as like an art quilter, I don't even know if he sees himself that way, but he is just awesome. He's friendly and he's warm and yeah. So I rarely use my iPad for these things, but this was kind of hard to get hang on, to get printed out. Anyway, it's not interesting to you, but this quilt, Tulip and Oak Leaf, made in 1987 by the authors. So obviously another super traditional quilt, you know. Whoops. And I assume this is one of the ones they copied, you know? And I don't know, I just think that's really cool. I respect that a lot. Joe does a lot online, M. Sujan says. I took one of his short workshops early in the pandemic. Awesome. Little Bird Stitch took a class from Gwen back in the 90s and from Joe in the 20-teens. Nice. Fiandor says, have considered making a quilt like they did before rotary cutters and acrylic templates. Interesting. You say you have cereal boxes set aside for templates. Maybe we'll copy the patterns from the era. My mom, I mean, one of my earliest memories of, quilt making and my mother was, cereal box templates. I remember them. Definitely remember them. Okay, here's what they say about this quilt. Actually, there isn't a caption under this quilt. That's what they say. Okay, so let me show you something you're really gonna like. I went in deep into my Google Drive and found this. Oh wow, Hootsie just hosted a fundraiser for Ukraine. Several hours of 10 to 15 with many other quilt peeps demonstrating various techniques. Nice. That's great. Thank you. That's really cool. Demonstrating, that's really great. So you raised money. Do you feel good about it? Did you feel like it was a success? Fundraising takes a lot of energy, so respect to you for doing that. It's awesome. Okay, several hours. Okay, great. I think, Joe, I think I see what you're saying. Wait a minute. Not me, Joe. Okay, got it. Yeah, there's no autocorrect on Twitch, so it's like, I get it, believe me. I get to just talk in the chat instead of actually type, so I'm off the hook. But Joe hosted a fundraiser and raised money for Ukraine. That's awesome. Hey, Charles. It's good to see you. It's really good to see you too. Okay, so this is a page from Quilter's newsletter in 1984, and this is Joe Cunningham and Gwen Marston. Whoops, hang on. Very young. Let me do this. I'm going to scoot the page over so you can see this as I zoom in. They made 30,000. That's amazing. That's awesome. Go, Joe. Okay, look at these young'uns. Isn't that amazing? Look at them. So this is 1984. So they were making their work. I know, Threadus, isn't it great? It's so great. God, they're young. So it says, let me do this here. This is one of those, look, see, this is the meet and place, and we've looked at these before, these meet and place pieces in Quilter's newsletter where they introduce us, right? May we introduce you to this particular quilter or that particular quilter. And Gwen Marston and Joe Cunningham were featured, on in this particular issue. Hang on one second. Do that. Okay. So every Quilter's newsletter reader has surely fantasized at some time or other about getting away to a beautiful, secluded, quiet spot where all day, every day, could be spent just planning and working on quilts. Gwen Marston and Joe Cunningham have made that dream come true for themselves. They are professional quilt makers who live in a charming, comfortable house studio they built on Beaver Island in northern Lake Michigan. And that's where I was to see Gwen, and it is indeed very beautiful. And so the article talks about, so it says, always starting with the traditional, this talented couple has developed contemporary ways to execute and extend the familiar. Hey, Kelly. Gwen and Joe have made almost 100 quilts together. So this was in 1984, and intend to keep on making quilts of all kinds, from strictly traditional to contemporary original designs for as long as they can foresee. The best way to understand quilts is to make them, says Joe, and rather than abandoning old quilts to pursue new ways, we find a wealth of ideas in our study of early examples. We're overflowing with ideas and projects, and we feel we are just beginning. Yeah. So, oh, wait a minute. That's not, could that be? No. I mean, are they working on the thing we just saw? Hang on. Hold on. No. Okay. No. But it it threw me. It might have been that. So look at this one. Look at this one. Let me move this back over. I mean, they were so young, they were so young. So this is Variable Star Medallion. The cable, so they talk in the caption about this cable quilting. It's 82 by 88 inches, made in 1981. They made it together. I mean, this is what I mean by, not really understanding just how good they were. That sounds dumb, but I mean, I saw both Gwen Marston and Joe Cunningham as expert quilters who were really avant-garde. And I knew, so there's another thing to know about Joe Cunningham and Gwen Marston. They learned from a lot of the things that they learned, and one of their main teachers, I should say, was Mary Schaefer, who was a very famous and important quilt maker in Michigan, who made lots and lots of quilts and was one of those very active quilt makers in the time between the the 1930s Depression era explosion of quilt making in the United States and until the Great Quilt Revival. People talk about there being this fallow period between the 30s and the 70s, or between the 40s and the 70s after World War I. People made less quilts in general, and so there were a lot of quilts being made, but it's kind of understood that there were fewer quilts being made mid-century. Mary Schaefer was one of those people who was making tons of quilts and teaching a lot of people. And she was in Michigan, and she was one of Joe Cunningham and Gwen Marston's teachers. And so when you think about that, that this brilliant quilter, Mary Schaefer, was one of their mentors, that they were sort of her proteges, this makes sense. And so it's just been really cool, over the past couple of days to be flipping through. I flipped through all kinds of things over the course of a few days, but I was looking at this and I was like, I really want to share these. A couple more. This is also from that book. And I love this. I love the way this is. This is later. It's 1990. And I love the way it looks like the quilt is turned over, right? It sort of gives that sense. No rotary cutters, no strip piecing, says Kelly. Yep, totally. This was before that. And you are not late. You are right on time, girl. You're right on time. Kelly, not her. So, by the way, thanks. People were saying how much they liked the show on Saturday, and I really appreciate that. I did too. I thought it was a good time. And I'm going to make that pinto bean pie from that cookbook. It's printed out, and I'm going to make it. Eric, did I tell you I'm going to do that? I think he has headphones in. That's all right. I don't blame him. So this one, okay, here's what they have to say about this quilt. Molly, you like this one? I do too. That cable quilting is strikes fear in my heart. I would have a hard time making it look that good. Okay, so they say of this, oh, come on now. It's 76 by 76. They made it together, as I mentioned. Let's zoom in a little bit on that. That's a very interesting quilt motif, isn't it? It's very interesting. Okay. Just don't be like that. Okay. Okay. This is one of a series of quilts on the theme of homelessness. Whoa. The title and the design, it's called Blocks. It's called Blocks. Okay, just Blocks. The title and the design refer to both the streets where homeless people live and the obstacles to self-improvement. This quilt seemed to call for formal, tightly controlled quilting. The outer border has a braided cable from a Roman vase, and the inner designs are mostly geometric. The geometric designs were worked out by experimenting with an angle keeper. An angle keeper. Padma, rotary cutter came out in 1979. Did she say this top was 1990? They may have used a rotary cutter. Yes, that is a good point. And the rotary cutter, I mean, it's so interesting. The rotary cutter, from what I understand, it was invented by Japanese architects. The Japanese architects, Ulfa, was a Japanese company. I'm pretty sure. Here's what I know for sure. Japanese architects were using a tool that was essentially a razor blade on a wheel, which is what a rotary cutter is, in their work, right? Designing things, making models, things like that. And I'm pretty sure that Olfa was the company that made the first rotary cutter. Okay, pretty sure. And before the rotary cutter, I mean, we just were talking about was it Fiandor? You were talking about using cereal box templates and stuff. And before people were using rotary cutters, that was how you cut out your pieces. And some of you remember that, right? Italians cutting pizza. No, S.J. Pepper. They do not get credit. They don't get credit. It's not, I mean, they honestly, maybe they came up with it first, because it's true. A pizza cutter is exactly what a rotary cutter is too. And it works for, getting through large expanses of cheese or cloth. But before the rotary cutter, the process was so much more labor intensive to get your pieces of fabric. And it's my theory that we wouldn't have a long arm industry like we have if it wasn't for the rotary cutter. Because my mom told me, when people started using rotary cutters en masse, and that they had so many tops, they were starting to have more tops than they could get quilted. And people had always, sent out their quilts to be quilted by other people. In fact, we're going to look at a quilt maker, Jean Hewes, who, well, let's see, I don't know if Jean Hewes did it, but anyway, I was reading about Rodka Donnell, who I'm going to present about tomorrow for the Quilt Folk Block of the Month program. And she never quilted any of her quilts. She's a very, very famous quilt maker, pioneer in the quilt world. She never quilted any of her quilts. She only pieced. So it's not that the rotary cutter suddenly had people, sending their quilts out to be quilted. That's always happened. But it was so easy and fast to make quilt tops because of this rotary cutter thing that I think the long arm industry was really born out of that, because, we got to get these quilts quilted. Yeah, you listen, the next time I'm in Portland, like, there's a lot of quilt nerds out in your area. We got to get together. I mean, that'd be really good. Karen Brown did an interview with an Olfa rep a little while ago. It was nifty to learn more. That's awesome, Pam. I gotta watch that. Karen Brown, Olfa. It was Olfa. Okay, good. Not Italians. Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't get that wrong. Oh, thanks, M. Hicks. That's great. Add your information to the Discord, or to the master list in the Discord if you haven't already. She's great. I love Karen Brown. It's awesome. Kelly says, my late dad used tiny rotary cutters for film. Whoa! Way before they were used in the quilt industry. 4-color separation. He was a printer by trade and eventually owned a company that printed limited edition art for some pretty famous artists. That's so cool. He used it for film. That is really neat. That is really, really cool. I mean, I think everybody could use a razor blade on a wheel in their industry for something, right? I don't know. Insurance adjustment, I don't know, but it's a good tool. So this one, just a couple more, and then we'll go on. This is called Snowballs. And I love this. I looked at this for an intro quilt, but again, I want to kind of get some color in that first quilt that I show you all. So this is, just another one of their brilliant quilts. I won't spend too much time on this. Let me just get a couple more of these in. A flag quilt, which I think is really beautiful, feathers, and it's a nice layout for a flag quilt. I like it a lot. Pem says, I keep thinking about the scalloped edge rotary blade used for cutting bacon. Olfa adapted the blades from industrial purposes. Yeah. And then, I mean, my mom, here are a couple more books that they wrote, which I didn't realize they had written, Marston and Cunningham. My mom had a rule. I mean, we just could not use the rotary cutter, from her quilt studio. There was absolutely no bones about it. Like, if we used the rotary cutter for our art projects, I mean, it was just, we didn't know what would happen to us. It was going to be sudden death, Same with her Ginger shears, not allowed. And it sucked because, when your mom makes quilts, she has all these great tools, X-Acto knives, for cutting out templates, rotary cutters, Ginger shears, dressmaker shears, and like they were so sharp and they were so great. And one time, see all these books they wrote. At one time, Hannah used the rotary cutter. She used the rotary cutter to cut something. This is a great quilt. To cut something, that she wasn't supposed to be cutting with a rotary cutter. And she, sorry, it's gross. She sliced her thumb open. I mean, it was not good. Sorry if you're squeamish, but she really hurt herself and she had to go get stitches and it was bad. And it was like, after that, we didn't do it, but it took that for us bad kids, to get the idea. And that's why you've never seen Hannah. Exactly. Yeah, my sister was punished. she was. I mean, she was punished after the shock wore off all of us that she had been, deformed. Yeah, I did grow up with a quilting family. I mean, Mom, there were quilts everywhere. There really were quilts everywhere in my house, and we just never made them ourselves, my sisters and I, until I got older and I started doing it. But Hannah hasn't really made quilts, and SJ, you may offer, if I don't say it, you probably will, that it was probably her rotary cutter incident that turned her off quilt making for her entire life. But she makes art and she makes garments, and like she's, she may be scarred, physically, but emotionally she's okay. And Quilting Politics says, if you have my fabric scissors, you better be running. That's all I'm going to say. What was it? Somebody said tie a red ribbon or something around the scissors that are off limits. It doesn't seem like it'll signal to people that you shouldn't use those scissors, but whether they will or not, it's their personal choice. Yeah. And I got a lot of quilts in my life early on, but I didn't get quilts until later in life. Okay. So that is the scoop. Oh, wait, I gotta, what did the poll do? What did you say? So Quilters Newsletter Friday is this Friday. Nice. Oh, that's good. So Quilters Newsletter Friday is 7:00 on Friday night. Get your wine, get your chips, chill out, work on a project, and I'll read with you. We'll flip through together an issue of Quilters Newsletter magazine. And everybody, the survey says the 1970s win. So I will scan in an issue of the magazine from the 1970s, and we'll hang out and read it. It's great. I really like the Quilters Newsletter Friday. So that's going to happen. So I'll pick an issue from the 1970s and we'll do it up. And the announcement to share with you, there's so much going on. Oh my God, today. Okay, well, today was a great day because there's a project I'm working on. I mentioned it to you all a while ago. But it moved forward today with something that's very quilt related that I'll be able to tell you more about later. But today it became official. I signed a thing for this project that felt really good. And I read poetry today. I read some poetry because I'm going to present on this particular quilt artist, Rodka Donnell, tomorrow. And she wrote poems. And I have her book here. And it's this book, Quilts as Women's Art, A Quilt Poetics by Rodka Donnell. And yeah, it's really good. We've talked about it before, but it's been nice to dip back into it. And yeah, so I've kind of been excited about things that are coming up, and being able to read poetry is great. And this show being about quilts all the time for people who are new or people who don't really who make quilts, who don't dive deeper into the books that are out there and the literature that's out there. It might be surprising to know that there are quilt makers who write poetry, and there are quilt makers who are writing literature and scholarly papers. And I'm going to read to you from a really good dissertation tonight, and it's not boring. It's not something that you might expect. I mean, there's beautiful analysis of quilts. There's really wonderful things that people write about them when they look really closely at quilts. And so that's what we do on this show. And if you want to learn about, yourself and the world and quilts, you should stick around and listen a little bit and watch what we do here. We have a pretty cool community, and it's growing, and it feels really good. And now I'm going to show you what I mean by talking about Jean Hewes. Jean Hewes, I say these things a lot, but man, I got to tell you, Jean Hewes is one of my favorite quilt makers. It's one of my favorite quilt makers of all time. And I think that you will see why. So the dissertation I mentioned was written by Nancy Bavor. I'm going to read to you about Jean Hewes from this paper, the title of which is the California Art Quilt Revolution, by Nancy Bavor. It was written in 2011, and it was for her Master's of Arts in Textile, Clothing, and Design from the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. And so this, what is it? Yeah, Sandy tries. Yeah, Sandy says, I got a fancy pair of scissors about 20 years ago, and she doesn't even use them because they're the good ones. I know. It's like buying really good fabric, like fabric that you love, and not using it because you don't want to cut it up, you know. But you got to use it, because if you put it in a quilt, if you put your favorite fabrics in a quilt, then they live forever in the quilt, you know. If they just stay in your stash, you know, nobody can see them, nobody can enjoy them. So if you use those really favorite fabrics in your quilt, that's when they can really be safer. They're safer in a quilt, you know, than out of a quilt. So here is one of the quilts by Jean Hewes that I wanted to show you. And I've got a number of them. This is probably the first one that I saw ever. It's at the International Quilt Museum. It's called Angel. It's 87 by 82, and it was made in 1985. The art quilters out there, all you art quilters, you will be happy with these, I think, because they're really special. They're very, you know, I don't know, they look like a Juan Miro painting, perhaps, or who else am I thinking of? The art people out there might be able to make another connection with painters. Not Chagall. It's not. Well, I don't know. No, not Marc Chagall, but you know, definitely a Juan Miro kind of vibe. So here's from this paper. I'm going to show you these quilts as I read to you a little bit. Calder, yeah, Alexander Calder. Thank you, Susan. Totally. All right, so Saucy Stitcher says, using favorite fabrics is advice as good as making your bed. Oh, yeah, Sandy, thank you very much. I agree. I think that using your fabrics in the quilts that you make, that your very favorite fabrics, is good advice, because so many people I know, including me in the past, you save the best, you know, you save the best stuff, you save your very favorite material, you save fabric that you got that means something to you, you know, or fabric maybe you got from a friend or a relative or somebody, you know, it was passed on to you. You don't want to use it because it's so valuable to you. But in a quilt, it'll last longer. And it will mean something to you or someone else in quilt form that it can't possibly mean in your stash. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so from Nancy Bavor, here is some information about Jean Hewes. And you spell her name Jean, Hewes, Jean Hewes. Okay. Threadus loves this. Same. Jean Hewes was born in 1941 and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1963 from Lawrence University in Wisconsin. So she studied, I'll skim a little bit some of this stuff, but she studied ceramics and watercolor at Madison in Wisconsin. And she did some art history and design and drawing and things, but it was the ceramics and the watercolor that would end up influencing her quilts quite a bit. Hughes and her husband volunteered for the Peace Corps after college and spent 2 years in Iran. Impressions from their travels recur in her work. Upon their return to the U.S., the couple moved several times while Hughes' husband attended business school. They were living in Chicago in 1974 with 2 infant sons when Hughes made her first quilt. She saw an article Sock monkey. What? There was a sock monkey in there? Where's the sock monkey? Right here? Is that a sock monkey? Wait, I mean, if there, I see a turkey leg. I see that turkey leg right there. So, well, there could be more sock monkeys, actually. There's a lot of, like, sort of soft sculpture looking shapes in her work, but anyway. Okay, so they're living in Chicago in 74, and she has 2 baby sons, and she makes her first quilt. Hughes saw an article in the Chicago Herald about a woman who used remnants from a fabric store to make a quilt. She didn't know anything about traditional quilt making, unlike Cunningham and Marston, right? They were copying traditional designs around this time, right? In the 70s. But Hughes didn't know anything about traditional quilt making and had no preconceived notion of what a quilt should look like. Quote, "I thought of quilts as fabric puzzles to be used as bed covers," she said. However, since she had always sewn most of her own clothes and was well supplied with scraps, Hughes decided to make a quilt too. Very structural. Holding the purple thing? Okay. Yeah. Okay. I get it. My other favorite fake animal is a rubber duck, obviously. Susan has 3 favorite fabrics she buys whenever she finds them. I get that. I know what you mean. There's a calico. There's like a little sort of pinkish brown calico. I buy it if I see it. And it's everywhere, especially in vintage fabric stores. Okay. Or in the vintage section. Okay. Her first 2 quilts were geometric, using squares and rectangles with an overall format inspired by Persian rugs. While in Iran, Jean Hewes spent many hours in the Tehran Bazaar studying Persian rugs as a design source. She was also intrigued by the colorful tile patterns used to decorate many of the mosques. A year later, Hughes' husband was transferred to California, and she moved into a development of California modern tract houses. She realized she could brighten dark brown wood-paneled walls with fabric wall hangings, quote unquote. And this was when she realized the full creative potential of quilts. So before I read more, let's take a look at this. There are transparent pieces, obviously there's an overlay. That piece seems like it's overlaid on top of the very thick quilted quilt. The quilting that she's done is deep, there's this depth to it. So to me, this speaks of a very thick bat. You love this? Yeah, I do too. I don't know. It feels very modern to me, like modern art museum, modern. And the colors, this chartreuse, and the way the figures seem to float and shift. I just love it. I think it's so great. Is this a book? I'm reading to you from this paper by Nancy Bavor, and you can get it. Let me just do this real quick. It's right here. Nancy Bavor, California Quilt Revolution. Hang on, I'll put the link to it in the chat because it's available through the University of Nebraska Digital Commons. So I'm going to put it in the chat right now. I think it should be free. I have a subscription to, let me just see. I want to try to find a free version for you. Oh yeah, I got it. Here you go. So it's a very long paper. It's 200 pages or something about the art quilt revolution in California in the 1980s and 90s. And it's fascinating. But she's one of the people who changed the face of art quilts in the United States. And she was in California when she was doing it. And a lot of those art quilters were, Marston and Cunningham. They're kind of interesting because I don't think either of them would have considered themselves art quilters, at least not at the time when they were making those traditional quilts, right? But, Gwen Marston later, I don't know. It's interesting what was going on in the United States in quilt making in the 70s and into the 80s. So, okay. So yeah, this is kind of a detail. It's another image of the last quilt I showed you. I just like the color in this particular image. You see, it's the same thing. Let me just go back. It's the same quilt, but this figure over here is shown a little differently here. And I'm not sure which one is more correct. It's probably this one, because this is from the International Quilt Museum, who owns this picture or owns this quilt. Oh yeah, and the name of this, thank you for asking, Mother Nature, is Shooting Star, and it's 87 by 121. It was made in 1985. 1985. I mean, these look like fossils, like, or fish. Yeah, I guess they're fish, but they look the way that they are. Like, you can see, can you see the fish quilting here around this guy? But they look like trilobites or something. I mean, they look like fossilized fish, I think. Just because of the way she's segmented the color. It's so cool. And I mean, this figure here, it looks like well, here, let me go to this one because we can see it really easily. I mean, it looks like some sort of medieval knight, or like a, like it looks like the figure's wearing a wimple. And if SJ's here, like, I feel like wimple might be on your list of like favorite words, it is on mine. And this looks a little like a golf club, but I don't know that that's the case. I love it. It's like this person's wearing a helmet or some kind of face mask or something. It's really cool. Ninja. Yeah. It looks like a ninja. Oh, a beekeeper. Yeah, completely makes sense. So, okay, hang on. Okay. All right. So, to create her distinctive... Oh, wait, hold on. So while in California, Hughes turned to a figurative style and completed a series of quilts with images of birds. Images of birds, okay. Over time, the birds took on more human shapes, and their wings became arms. Cool. Wow, that's like really awesome. However, Hughes' figures are only vaguely human, and her semi-abstract, amorphous shapes have a surreal quality. This one is called Streamers, and this is the thing, you guys, about this quilt. Iranian Muslims. Interesting, Padma. Oh, interesting. Yeah, sure. Mother Nature, you saw a golf club too. Mosquito net. Interesting. Oh, that's really interesting. Oh yeah, Gustav Klimt. So here's the other thing about Jean Hewes. This work is 6 by 7 feet. So this is big stuff a lot of the time. I mean, 6 by 7 feet. This was made in 1981, and it's called Streamers. This one is it's a screenshot from a book that was online. So the color is a little bit funky, but I still think it's pretty good. You can certainly see, like, her style is evolving. This is 1981, and she made her first quilt, remember, in 1974. So she's just 5 years into this when she's doing this stuff. Yeah, I mean, look at the lines here, the quilting here. Really cool. It's life size. Exactly, Pam. Yeah, I don't know. There's lots of lines in her work. Lots of long. I mean, this is called Streamers, but like any of her quilts, look at this one. Long lines. Look at that orange. This orange line extending from the top down to the bottom. I just think of not strips or stripes, but lines when I think of Jean Hewes' work, and I just love it. And that transparency feels so neat too. That there are these overlaid pieces, this almost like vellum or toile or something like that. Again, more lines here. This piece is 7 by 6 feet. It was made in 1983, and it's called Wizard. Oh, you can see him or her. You see, that's the head here. More golf clubs, exactly. And then the cape or the outfit. I think I see it as this is his yellow arm here over on this side, and then sort of the cloak is all of this orange, and these 3 strips are like the cloak hanging down from his arm. So to create her distinctive imagery, Hughes used a process that owed more to the collage techniques favored by the surrealists, who composed works based on unconscious, random associations of images, more than to the traditional quilt applique methods. The artist worked intuitively, without a plan or preliminary drawing, feeling she could achieve a looser, freer look this way. She assembled a wide variety of fabrics and threw them on the floor, feeling how colors, textures, and patterns worked together. From this grouping, she selected large pieces of fabric and sewed them together to form a background. After she sandwiched the background top with batting and backing, she pinned it to a wall. From additional fabric, she cut shapes similar to those she used in her free-form ceramic pieces. This one is in black and white because it's from an older book, but it's interesting. Have you all ever done that? This is called the Striped Lady. It's 42 by 76 inches, made in 1981, so it's smaller. Have you all done the thing where when you're picking out fabrics for your quilt, do you take a picture with your phone and put on the black and white filter to see how the contrast is looking? Is that a thing that you've done? I remember before cell phones, there were like the ruby, Eleanor Burns did like ruby lens glasses or something. They were, red lenses, which took the color out of what you were looking at and showed you just the high contrast. Hey, Mary Kate, are you the only one with a really glitchy Twitch tonight? Are people having glitches? Sometimes you gotta, well, I mean, you've probably tried this, Mary Kate, but sometimes you close it out and open the browser again, like close your browser and open it. So far there haven't been people who have had trouble, but who knows? I'll be watching for it. Okay. The Ruby Beholder. Thank you. The Ruby Beholder. Thank you, Mother Nature. And Jay Dansura, you use the grayscale technique all the time. Kitty Hannah says Twitch is good. Hootsie uses that. Blair has a ruler for that purpose. Yep. No glitches. Thanks, Dee Marie. Hello, Dee Marie. And okay, good. Nothing too bad from folks. Okay. So Pembrito says her throwing fabric on the floor is a classic method of creativity. So Sonia, you do the black and white photo thing too, and M. Hicks does. So if you don't know what we're talking about, I mean, sometimes it's hard to know for sure. If you're cutting out fabric, it's always good to make a sample block, right? So you know what you're doing is working. But if you're not making a quilt with blocks, then you can't really make a sample block. And so if you want to compare, two fabrics and the amount of contrast they have, or their value, some people will say, next to each other, then you can take a picture with your phone and put on the black and white filter, and that will show you pretty clearly how dark your darks are, how light your lights are, and if what you're doing is working with your patchwork. And there are a lot of old books that we talk about on the show and that I have on my shelf at home that have black and white pictures, and I'm really glad that that trick is actually really helpful for making quilts and for quilt people, because it makes it a little bit less painful to see the quilts without color. But I think I said this is called the Striped Lady. Yeah, and it was made in 81. And someone said that Joe Cunningham does, he does big quilts too, right? Big ones. At least I've seen a lot of big quilts from him. An Unmaker does the black and white thing and then totally ignores it. That's fair. That's totally fair. And by the way, speaking of Eleanor Burns, she told me that when she got the rotary cutter initially, she put it in a drawer and was like, no one's ever going to use that, and I'll never use it. And she didn't for like 3 years or something. And then she became the stripping queen. Yeah, I mean, it happens. Jane Ansura says the black and white technique is especially good for prints. Yeah, for printed cloth for sure. I love all her striped borders. I'm really digging the striped border thing. I'm into it. Okay, showed you that one. Okay, this is a a detail. This is a detail of, hang on now. Yeah, it's a detail of this one. I want to show you the whole thing first. It's kind of scary. I mean, some of them are kind of creepy. And this is called the Sitter. And it's 5.5 feet by 5.5 feet by 4 feet. Okay, 4 by 6 or so. It's made in 1978. 1978. Okay. As Hughes built her quilt. Oh wait, hold on. No, I like that. I don't want to miss that. Okay. Yeah, okay. From this grouping, she selected large. So she's throwing things on the floor, right? That's where we were. From this grouping, she selected large pieces of fabric and sewed them together to form a background. After she sandwiched the background top with batting and backing, she pinned it to the wall. From additional fabric, she cut shapes similar to those she used in her free-form ceramic pieces, arranged the fabric pieces on the background, and started building her imagery. As she worked, shapes and figures began to suggest themselves, each creative decision informing the next. When she was content with one area, she machine appliqued the unfinished edges of pieces and then began work on another area. The unfinished edges provided added dimensionality to her work and gave it a forceful, primitive look that the artist liked. As Hughes built her quilt, she also pinned in the machine quilting design, using the quilting lines to imply, extend, or define additional shapes. Hughes usually used a great deal of machine quilting in her work, explaining, quote, "I draw with my sewing machine." That's kind of cool. She used a large, wide range of fabrics from around the world. Oh, here's Jean Hewes. Okay. A wide range of fabrics from around the world. Silk, cotton, rayon, polyester, glittery brocades with silver and gold threads. And her own and purchased resist dyed or painted fabrics. The stripping queen, exactly. The Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, Kitty Hannah, I get that. Yeah, Alice in Wonderland vibe for sure in a lot of her stuff. I mean, this one's kind of trippy, you know? This is sort of like with that pink and the orange. This was made in 1982. It's 5.8 feet by 4.7 feet. It's called Flower Girls. And I mean, yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, are we looking at like opium, like poppies here? You know, I mean, it is kind of trippy. Who's saying bacon? Yeah. Yeah, like Francis Bacon. Yeah, totally threadist. Yeah, you guys are so smart. And Lily mentions that the black and white technique is great for scrappy quilts. Balancing the value is sometimes hard to do when you're just looking at scraps, but it really makes a difference in the finished work. Yeah, that's a good point. 1982 was a very good year. It certainly was. For additional dimensionality, the artist occasionally added sequins or imported Indian textiles with shisha mirrors. I don't know that word, shisha. I think I know what they're talking about, but it's shisha mirrors. Are those the little round mirrors that are then embroidered into, you know, clothing and things? I think if what I have in my mind is that, then I know what they're talking about. The artist acquired fabric from a variety of sources, including home decoration and fabric stores, and through mail order. Interesting. She says, Nancy Bevore says, Hughes' enigmatic work challenges the viewer to interpret the artist's meaning. The artist is reluctant to discuss her work or creative intentions, preferring to let the work do the communicating. Quote, "My work has figures in it, but I actually don't like speaking to any of it. There's an old saying, half of art is in the eye of the beholder. So when people become specific about their work, it loses what magic it has. It doesn't communicate as much as before." And I was reading other things about her. And she didn't really sell things. Like she wasn't really into shisha mirrors. Okay. Oh, that's good. She wasn't really into selling a lot of things. Like it kind of didn't, wasn't a priority for her, which, I mean, that's nice that she didn't have to worry about that. A lot of people, don't really have that luxury. They need to take commissions and they need to do that. And Sonia, Sonia's like, I'm getting the itch to try some art quilting. And Karen, she's responding to Karen, who's saying that too. And I mean, I hope the show, does encourage people to try new things. I know that it does because I've seen your projects on the Discord, and people are trying different things. But yeah, we look at a lot of really interesting art quilts on this show, and I mean, I don't know. I've never looked at them so close as I have since I started doing the show, and it's very inspiring. This is Beach Birds, 80 by 111, 1977. This is pretty early. And still you have those long lines, right? Okay. Shishe or Abla, Bharat embroidery, Persian, Hindi, Gujarati, or mirror work is a type of embroidery. Okay, so those are the different spellings or words in those places. Or those in those areas, is type of embroidery which attaches small pieces of mirrors or reflective metal to fabric. Yeah, totally. Okay, mirror embroidery is common throughout Asia, and today can be found in the traditional embroidery of the Indian subcontinent, Afghanistan, China, and Indonesia. Thank you, M. Hicks. I appreciate that. That's awesome. I can see some of those garments and things in my mind. Yeah. Okay, let's see. What do we got here? So there was a couple quotes I just wanted to read to you from something else. This wasn't from Bavor's paper, so we're done with that. Thank you, Nancy Bavor. Let's see. So she passed away in 2011. Okay, this one's called Pillars, 1983. She said, this was in a book that I was reading, I do not start out with any sketch or plan in mind. Okay, Padma says, I'm having trouble with that. Gujarati is an Indian language and Gujarat is a state in India. Okay, thank you very much. I have learned that. Yes, Wikipedia is our friend, and Padma, thank you for that, for clearing that up. And so Jean said, I do not start out with any sketch or plan in mind for my quilts. I just begin by throwing down different fabrics on the floor, feeling how the colors and textures work together. As I continue working with the fabric, shapes and figures begin to suggest themselves. And here's something else. So, and this is from her own words, and it's good that I found this in one of the books that we've talked about. Quilting as a fabric art or something. It was a while ago. But since she doesn't talk about her work very specifically, very much, I felt like this was kind of a cool thing to share because it's kind of rare, I guess. So she says, I started making quilts to escape a trap of child raising. American women have traditionally quilted to escape bleak environments. Child raising for me meant sitting at home with diapers, runny noses, and kids fighting. I have an MFA in ceramics, but ceramics meant a great deal of equipment in a large room, a messy medium that didn't combine well with children and their problems. Wow. She's saying it straight. I've always sewn most of my clothes, so I had access to large quantities of fabric scraps. Quilts can be made in a small space, right? This is why it appeals to a lot of people. They are a convenient medium, a release into dazzling color and intricate pattern. I use fabric yardage other artists have given me sometimes, which they have rejected for their purposes, as well as embroidered Indian and Afghan materials. Many of these fabrics I re-dye. I use them like my own dyed silks. Let me show you this one again, which I love. I use my own dyed silks as well, cutting out smaller shapes and eventually quilting designs into them. Okay, let's see. There was someone was getting a glitchy Twitch feed. Interesting. So on positive threads. Yes, exactly. Thank you. We're learning all of the things. Interesting. So I'll tell Eric about that. I'll tell Eric about that if people are getting little glitches. It's interesting because we moved the satellite thing a little bit today, so it might be that. But I will definitely let him know if that is happening, which it sounds like it is for a few people. Okay. She says in conclusion here with Jean, she says, I consider my quilts works of art, and I believe that each viewer appreciates a work of art according to his or her background. I also see quilting as a storytelling medium. I lived in California and worked on quilts for 8 years. The 11 quilts I made there, starting with the sitter, are a journey through the flashy society of Silicon Valley, people uprooted but highly motivated. My quilts show life in the fast lane, a deadly, highly competitive society clothed in a colorful environment. So wait a minute. So the sitter, you guys, that was this one, right? Yeah. Ooh, so this is about Silicon Valley. That's crazy. That's so interesting. Wow. That's so great. How interesting. Silicon Valley. I mean, and she made this in 1978. Very interesting. Okay, some people are having glitches and some people aren't. Interesting. Okay. All right, guys. Well, so that's Jean Hewes. I'm glad I got to share about her. I've been wanting to do that for a while. I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I have a special surprise for you. So don't go anywhere, and I will see you in just a few minutes. Okay? All right. Where's my thing? Okay, here it is. Okay, fine. Hey, we're back. Okay. Wait. It's kind of a weird thing to have in the background. All right. Whoa. Let's go back here. I gotta get small. What's going on here? Is it over here? All right, I'm gonna get small. Help, I'm small. So the surprise is not the quilt drawing. Not yet. Not yet. When we get to 200 subscribers, I'm gonna do a drawing for a quilt. And I don't know, like I might have some other incentives brewing, because when we get to 200 subscribers, I'm gonna draw a name from the subscriber list, and give somebody a quilt from this amazing charity organization. These kids in Nepal, well, these women in Nepal make quilts for kids, sell them. Kids go to school, people get great quilts. Like it's amazing. But I want to talk about the giveaway when we get a little bit closer to our goal. Right now we're hovering between like 150 and 160. So if you haven't subscribed to the show, I hope that you good Charles. I hope that you will subscribe, and if you do that, it encourages me. Really, you should subscribe, because you get an ad-free experience. You get to be entered in all of the drawings that we do, and I have done several. We're gonna do more all the time. I mean, I want to give back to the community that's supporting the show, and you get access to the Discord. And we have a good time over there. When you have access to the Discord, you also get to be in the Quilt Nerd on Parade show that happens 4 times a year, where I show quilts that you make. Like, so you can send me one of the quilts that you've made over the past year, 1 or 2 of them, and I'll show them on the show live for everybody to see. So that's really cool. And also, if you have an Amazon Prime membership, you get a free Twitch subscription every month. So you can use it on this show. So if you have questions about that, then you can ask one of the mods. The mods can help you figure out how to subscribe with Amazon Prime. So really, you can get a free membership to the show and be entered in all the stuff and not have to watch ads, and it's beautiful. So thank you, Amazon Prime. So the surprise is not the drawing for the quilt. I've been thinking that like maybe I'll do, I don't know. I want my supporters to feel appreciated. And if it's going to take a little longer to get to that 200 subscriber number, I don't know. Here's the thing. I've been thinking about this. I've got a fair number of duplicate books at my office. As I loaded up all my quilt library books into the office, and I ordered another library book cart, by the way, because one is definitely not enough. I hope it'll fit in the office, this other cart. But I have a fair amount of duplicates. And so I'm trying to think like how to do a giveaway of some extra books, but I have enough that I want to do like a couple different, like there's a couple boxes, you know, like anyway. So like I could do a bunch of giveaways with like 5 books each, and probably have like 3 or 4 boxes to give away. So I got to figure that out, you know, because if we have to wait until the quilt giveaway, I don't want people to feel like deflated. I don't want you to feel like we're not getting there. We're getting there. But that's the goal, you know, it's got to be 200 subscribers. We're working towards something here. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of figuring it all out. Okay. See you, Kelly. I'm glad you came by, and I appreciate you. We were at like 185, and then we dipped down. And then, I don't know. I was talking to Eric about it, and I was like, I don't know, like, this is all really new for me. I don't know. Is that like the subscriber thing went down and everything's terrible, and what's going to happen? And he was like, this is totally normal. And he's been my cheerleader, you know, helping me know that like things go like this, and it's still the first year of the show. And like, it takes a while to build a thing. And for those of you who missed the announcement, I've made a big change in hopes of like building the channel, and you know, I've made a decision that I think is very wise, and that decision is to do 2 shows a week instead of 3 shows a week every week. So I'm going to do the Tuesday night show and the Saturday night show every week, just as it ever was. Tuesday night at 7 p.m. and Saturday nights at 8. The Thursday show is going away, and I will update the slideshow to reflect that like immediately after the show's over, because that has to happen. But the reason that I'm doing that is not because things aren't working. It's that things are working. They are, and we've established that. And like we have this community growing, and we have people who know that this content matters, and it's really unique and it's different. And I think the quilt community that we know and love, I think like you all do, there's a lot to be gotten from this kind of thing. It's quilt history, it's quilt culture. And I really want to share it with more people. And while I'm doing 3 shows a week, I really can't do any marketing. I mean, anything. So making YouTube videos, making short excerpts of the show to put on YouTube for people to see. It's an ad for the show. Anytime somebody watches a YouTube video on my channel, they'll see that Quilt Nerd exists. And, you know, just before I go into the surprise, which is a content surprise, it wasn't listed in the description, but I think it should be really fun. It's a video thing. We're going to watch a couple short videos, like 3 videos that are like 2 minutes each, because we need to analyze these things. You'll see. So are 2 of them cartoons? No, 1 of them's a cartoon. Anyway, so I was talking to Mike McCormick at Quilt Folk. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Bonnie. Oh, that's a good idea. Molly, Eric is a gem. He is. Eric, Molly says you're a gem, and other people say it as well. Oh, interesting, Threadist. Interesting. One Twitcher I watched does 1 giveaway per stream. Not a big thing, but a nice thing. 1 book a stream or 1 a week. Ooh. One book. Well, 1 book every stream until they're gone. I mean, that'd be really fun. That'd be really fun. That would be really fun. But maybe 1 a week to make it last, you know? I like that. I like ones like a Saturday night giveaway. I like that a lot. Threadist. Threadist. I really like that. Oh, and the other thing, then I'll tell you about what Mike said. The shipping. Yeah, the thing is, the shippy. Thanks, Penny. The shippy. Hey, Dana. The shipping, if you ship media mail, Susan, thank you for thinking of that, and it's true. The shipping, if you send media mail, is pretty inexpensive. It takes a little longer if you're shipping books, and I think I would, it would be okay. It would be 1 a week. Yeah, I think one a week. Give the books away on lower viewing days. Yeah. A book on newsletter night. That's a good idea. Yep. Yeah. And some of the dip in subscriptions is the generous gift subscriptions, like Eric and Kenny and other people who've given gift subscriptions could have expired totally. And, you know, I had a little cry about it. And then Eric was like, it's all good. And I just I'm not going anywhere. No. This has only just begun. People who succeed at a thing, it's not because they do things perfectly. It's not because they are, luck helps a little bit, but they do not give up. And I believe in this show, and I believe in you. I'm not going to cry, and everything's fine. And it's just I just love this. And I'm just not giving up. But it's, it's not going to be anything worth doing is it's not easy. It just can't. It's new. It's so new. It's a new format. It's a new platform. Just buckle up, and look, I know some people will love this show for a while, and then they'll need a break, and they'll go away and they'll come back. And some people, will be here for the duration, and I love you, and I'm really, really glad that you're here. And I know that it's it is a lot because there's changes to the schedule, and there's trying different things and all that stuff. But, if you get something out of this show, if you like it, if you tune in sometimes and you're like, damn, that was awesome. I didn't know about that person, Jean Hewes, or I just love talking to, Susan R. Michael about her, just she's great, or S.J. Pepper is hilarious. If you get something out of the show, I do hope you'll consider subscribing and stick around and see what happens, the evolution of this show. It's pretty, persistence, my great cats, exactly. Yes, send new commercials so you can share. I will put the link to the, you know what? How about I do this right now? I'm going to do something. I'm going to put the link to the trailer that's on YouTube, the trailer for the show, which is 60 seconds. And I think it's pretty cute. I shared it one day after I had made it. Let's see. It's 60 seconds, and if you want to share it with people that you know on your Facebook pages or whatever. And I will tell you that, let's see, hang on. I gotta do this, and okay. Some people will just, it's never gonna be for them, and that's totally okay. And some people will say, hey, that's kind of cool. I want to check it out. Here you go. There's the link to the trailer. Oh, Robin's Nest. Thank you. Oh, that's awesome. Threada says, now when I listen to quilter or artist interviews, interview podcasts, I'm like, yeah, but where's the slides? Exactly. That's like what we can do here, which is really special. Lots of giveaways, Padma says. That's what a lot of people do. Some are donated by other viewers, getting rid of duplicates, but you have to say, Padma says, I have to say they spend a lot of money on postage and time at the post office, but it does seem to help viewership. Yeah, giveaways are important, and yeah, okay. I think a book a week, at least. I mean, that's one thing to try, right? That's one thing to try. And so Mike McCormick at Quilt Folk, I was talking to him about marketing and about, Quilt Folk is in its, like, let's see, 2016 is like year 8. Is that possible? Yeah. Well, no, year 6. Yeah, year 6 of Quilt Folk, and like. 6 years, and the business has grown so much, and there's so many different things happening, and it's taken a long time, to get there. 6 years to build a thing, and he's still, of course, like, who is where they want to be with their business, who gets to a point where they're like, yes, I've done all the things I want to do, and everything's perfect. Like, we want to keep growing things, and so that's where I'm at. Anyway, how did I get on this? Oh yeah, because I have a surprise for you, a content surprise. And somebody asked if it was the giveaway, but not yet. But I think a book giveaway next week, every week, is a really good idea. So I'm going to do that, but I got to get the word out about it. And that's the part that I want to figure out. And I want to tell you that a Quilt Nerd stepped up and asked if she could do some interning for me in the show. And I was like, yes. So I'll tell you more about that once we get that all set up. So that's amazing. Quilt Folk's better than ever. I'm telling you. So on sound and video stopped. Sign out and come back. Yeah, that's good. Yes, a business expense for sure. Does Abe Books do gift certificates? That is a very good idea too. Ooh, that's really good. Gift certificates. That's really cool. That's a great idea. Oh, that's really good. Okay. Good, Molly. It's excellent. Yeah, that would be easy if you don't feel like going to the post office. Yeah, going to the post office can be that errand you never want to do. But I also want to, grow the channel, so I'll make it work. But yes, excellent. That makes sense. It makes sense for the messaging for the show. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. There are 3 short videos that I've had in my pocket to share with you, and I want to share them because it just feels nice. It feels like a good thing to watch a video. Okay, so this is the history of quilting in 4 minutes. Where did this video come from? We're going to find out. Hang on one second. Let me get this down here. I want to refresh this so you don't have to look at the spinning thing. Okay, and I'm gonna unmute it, and I'm gonna do this so I can read to you about it. Hang on. Let me just set this up because I didn't know if I was gonna do this or not, but I decided to do it. Okay. Videos are good. Learn about the history. Okay. Okay, the history of quilting in 4 minutes. Let's do it. And now, so we can see if these people, have it right or not, right? UPS offers to pick up. Yeah. I think this book thing is a good idea. Yeah, but book pickup at the office. Yeah, they do have that. And I have this great office now, so they can do my bidding. Okay, so the history of quilting in 4 minutes. This is produced by, or comes to us courtesy of, Quilts in 4 minutes. Sorry. This comes to us from the National Wool Museum. Okay. The History of Quilting in 4 minutes, narrated by Padrack Fisher, the National Wool Museum director. I feel like the National Wool Museum might be in the United Kingdom. I don't know. Okay, let's see what they have to say and put our Quilt Nerdery to work to see if they've got it right, okay? All right.
The History of Quilting in 4 minutes. Chapter 1, A Stitch Somewhere in Time. The history of quilts begins with the expression, 2 pelts are better than 1, and 3 are even better still. The origin of quilting is unclear. However, we do know the first needle is some 60,000 years old. And the earliest known quilted garment? That's depicted on a carved ivory figure of an Egyptian pharaoh, about 3400 BCE. Safe to say, the practice of layering...
The Ivory King. The Ivory King statue. Have we talked about it? If not, we will.
Stitching and embellishing started somewhere in between.
Really cute animation.
Chapter 2. Quilts are like pancakes. Every culture has one.
Nice.
Pick a continent, any continent. Chances are, you'll find something quilted. From Australian possum skin cloaks, to Aztec Ichkawippoli armor, Hawaiian kappa-inspired quilts, to auspicious Tibetan banners, or Zimbabwean Wea story cloths. Nearly each and every society has embraced and adopted quilting to fit their own cultural needs.
So far, I'm into it. I think they're doing a good job. I mean, the history of quilting in 4 minutes. It's not very many minutes.
And tastes. Chapter 3. Quilting goes west.
Wales, I knew it.
Crusaders
Thanks, Charles.
brought quilting to Europe from the Middle East sometime in the 11th century, when knights wore unpronounceable quilted things under their arm.
Gambeson, Akaton, Pourpoint. Never heard of that. Oh, and Jack. Oh, interesting. Okay. These are terms I do not know. Interesting. Okay.
Armor for comfort and safety, and over their armor for comfort and safety of, you know, those
Hey, Raffle.
plates.
Movie night.
Soon,
Just
warm,
started.
comfy quilted armor inspired warm, comfy quilted bed covers. And so, the quilt moved from one battlefield onto another.
Oh, touche. Interesting. Nice. Good writing. Okay.
Chapter 4. The Golden Age. Viva la Industrial Revolution. In the 19th century, quilt making flourished, along with the middle class and easy access commercial goods, not to mention the sewing machine. Quilts became stories crafted in cloth, a crazy, puffed, patriotic patchwork of samplers, signatures, and memorials, fit for friendship, trading, or to just throw on your lap. Chapter 5. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall inherit the quilt.
I'm kind of into this video. Like, I love the animation. Oh, the logo is very close to being done, by the way, but I'll tell you about it later this week. Yeah, anyway, I like it. I think they're doing a good job.
Legend tells of a woman's winter work, the Patchwork Square, a patterned square of fabric that forms the top of a quilt, with a cryptic encyclopedia of fanciful names to baffle even the best code breakers. Bear Paw, Churn Dash, Periwinkle, Flying Geese, Prairie Queen, Nine Patch, and Shoefly.
Oh.
Meanwhile, piecing together these squares at Quilting Bee's elevated teamwork to an entirely new level. Chapter 6. Quilts for art's sake.
Interesting.
Another revolution rocked the art and handcraft worlds, when painters, printers, and sculptors turned to quilts as expressions of abstract art, and thus the art quilt was born. Soon, fine art collectors and museums embraced this collision of traditional technique and modern design.
Well, there you go. Look at that. The Whitney Museum. They did their stuff. Oh, wow. Well, that's a deep cut. The 1986 Los Angeles Municipal Art Gallery exhibit, the art quilt. Okay. Cool. All right.
The humble
Legit.
but highbrow. Chapter 7. It's fair dinkum-Aussie, mate. Born out of necessity and the make-do Australian spirit, the Wagga was the bushman's blanket.
I'll tell you,
Most
Bridgewater.
likely named after Wagga Wagga, a place of wheat production and abundant old jute sacks. The traditional bushman's Wagga, made by pioneering men who lived a rough outback life droving and shearing, evolved as women replaced the very warm but very rough jute sacks with calico flour bags, fabric swatches, and bits of old clothes. And on that day, the domestic wagga came home. Textile making is a
We haven't talked about waggas yet, but we will. Yeah. They're the Australian, very interesting Australian quilt. Yeah.
practice spanning more than 60,000 years, from traditional techniques to cutting-edge technologies. Meanwhile, today, across the globe,
Yeah,
eco-conscious makers are embracing the make do, use up, or do without spirit. Only nowadays, we call it upcycling. So there you have it, folks. Equal parts history, handcraft, art, storytelling, and good old-fashioned utilitarian usefulness. Quilts, the lost art that was never really
lost.
lost.
Yay! Well done. I mean, if I was on the project, would I make a few changes? Yes, but in 4 minutes, they did a pretty good job, and it was really beautiful. So that, exactly, Jade Ansure says, waggas are kind of like the Suggans from Cowboys. Very well, exactly, you're exactly right. So this is National Quilt Register.org.au. Nice, National Wool Museum. Thanks for giving us a little love. Taking a break from the wool and hooking us up, with a little bit of history. Okay, so here is another one. So this one is 2 minutes and 7 seconds. And this one comes to us via Pottery Barn Kids, okay? What will it be like? I don't know. I've never seen these. This was the fun that I wanted to have. Okay. Hang on. Okay, and then there's the other one's 3 minutes and 21 seconds, and it's how African Americans perfected the art of quilting, and it's from a different channel. Okay, let's see what Pottery Barn has to tell us in 2 minutes about quilts. Okay, let's see.
Quilts have often been made and continue to be made to celebrate events in a person's life, a birth, a wedding, other events of that magnitude, rites of passage. And women often made quilts for daughters who were having a child.
Hold on. So Robert Shaw, because I got to keep
women.
I wouldn't be. Oh my God, this is so funny. Oh my goodness. Okay. So Robert Shaw, he's a man about town. He lives in Vermont. He was the curator of the Shelburne Museum for a long time in Vermont. He's an expert. He's written many, many, many things. In fact, tomorrow night, when I do my presentation on Rod O'Donnell for the Quilt Folk thing, I'll be reading something written by Robert Shaw about Rod O'Donnell. I mean, he's written tons of books, including several that we've talked about on the show. You'll see him many times, but that's the face to the name, Bob Shaw, Robert Shaw. And the quilt behind him, we photographed for Quilt Folk Vermont when we did a story on Robert Shaw. And while we're watching this video, I am going to find the pictures of that quilt because the pictures are awesome. So let's continue.
Often made quilts for daughters who were having a child, or made quilts in anticipation of their own wedding or someone else's wedding.
At Pottery Barn Kids.
No, Padma, not yet. I'm trying to figure out how to
perfect way to
package
honor the birth of a child. Our designs are playful, colorful, and feature traditional handmade techniques such as applique, embroidery, and hand quilting. Because they are made by hand, each one has a unique character that gives it a lasting appeal.
Many women in America and other places around the world made crib quilts for their children. It was a natural thing to do, and also easier than...
So wait a minute. So this is Pottery Barn talking about the handmade quilts that they sell. But we know from the Smithsonian stuff, I mean, are the Pottery Barn Kids quilts that were for sale at this time made in the United States? I don't know. They are made by hand, but that means a lot of different things. We're just too nerdy to take all these things at face value, obviously. I call BS. Thank you, my great cats. Same. All right.
Making a large bed-size covering. It doesn't take a lot of fabric or time to make a quilt big enough to cover a crib. So this is something that became very common in mid-19th century America, and it's continued up to the present day. Very often, little girls made quilts for their dolls. A kid who was 5 or 6 or 7 years old might make a tiny quilt, and that was her first lesson in
capitalism. Totally.
Quilts are important to the home environment because they provide both.
I mean, it's kind of weird Bob Shaw's in this. Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, I'm not throwing shade toward him. I'm just saying, like, did he know what he was doing? I don't know. It's weird.
Beauty and warmth. They're primarily things that are made out of love. They're objects that women have made and continue to make for their families, for their loved ones, and particularly for children.
Molly.
That's a tradition that runs through the history of America and continues to the present day.
Our quilts bring together different materials and textures into a lasting piece of art. A celebration of life with a new baby.
Yeah, somebody said... Jan Make Stuff said, seems like an interview was spliced into the Pottery Barn message. Yes, agreed. So there's one more video to watch, but I just got to show you this. It's crazy. It's crazy. Where's Bob? Where are you at, Bob? Okay, here. You remember this? That quilt is this quilt. I'm going to bring it up here, and I'm going to go like this. Yeah. Okay, it's that quilt. And Bob Shaw, no, we were at the Shelburne Museum, and there was this apple orchard. Okay, now I don't think this photograph is particularly successful, I have to say. I mean, it was like there was this doorway. It was so beautiful. It was Vermont. It was in the fall. There were these apples, interesting, Bonnie. It was this orchard, and this doorway was just there, like a doorway into the orchard. It was so beautiful. It was so cool. It was very like Secret Garden, very Secret Garden or Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe kind of thing. And we had this quilt of Bob's, and I was like, there were apples, and we had this quilt from Bob's house, and I was like, this is a great quilt. I want to shoot it for the cover. Let's see what we can do. And so when we went to this space, I was like, let's hang it in the magic door, and it didn't really work, but there's still beautiful pictures, but it didn't work for the cover like I thought it would. But that's the quilt that was hanging. See, apples. That's the quilt that was hanging behind Bob when he did his interview that maybe he didn't know was going to be in a Pottery Barn thing. I don't know. Yeah, see, it didn't work, but let me just let me show you a couple other really good ones from that. Well, okay, no, let's watch the last video because it's getting that to be that time. This looks really brown. And someone asked about the year of this. I don't know. It doesn't say. I think it was posted in 2011, but it looks much older than that. He got tired of the Pottery Barn kids quilt, so he made his own, and it's on his bed. Bonnie? Very funny. Yeah, it looks brown, but that is definitely the quilt. Definitely. All right, so let's watch one more video, and then I will release you. Thanks for coming tonight, you guys, and talking with me about all this stuff. Okay, so this is from a channel called Deeper Than Red, and it's episode 12. And it's how African Americans perfected the art of quilting. And it's 3 minutes and 20 seconds. So we saw the history of quilting in 4 minutes from the National Wool Museum. We saw Pottery Barn Kids. We saw their effort in 2 minutes. And let's see what they say here, the Deeper Than Red channel. Okay. Wait. Oh, great. Okay, they're quoting Mos Def. That's great. Quote, good art provides people with a vocabulary about things they can't articulate. Unquote. I love it. Mos Def, an excellent hip-hop artist and a very good rapper. Okay.
Did you know the origins of quilting can be found back as far as ancient Egypt? Quilting patterns used in America today can be traced back to textiles discovered in ancient Egyptian pyramids. The log cabin quilt pattern, popular with American quilters, was discovered in the early 19th century on the textile wrappings of mummified Egypt.
We've seen those, remember? We've seen them. We've talked about them on this show. Amazing. In the British Museum. Okay.
Cats. The Fon people of the Dahomey Kingdom, a dynasty that existed from 1600 to 1904, now present-day Benin, are credited with creating beautiful quilted tapestries. They used a quilting technique called applique. These tapestries would record the historical achievements of the ancient Dahomey kings.
Cool. Okay.
It is believed that the applique technique was brought to the Americas through the millions of kidnapped Africans during the transatlantic slave trade. Did you know African American quilting has deep roots in the Underground Railroad lore? In the book Hidden in Plain View, Ozell
Watch with a critical eye. I just did my thing, did my myth lecture for a wonderful Australian guild on Friday night. And I talked about this. Have we ever really talked about this together? The whole hidden in plain view thing? Padma, you're on easy street now. Yeah, I mean, you're an expert. You're a quilt expert. Just wait for people to come to you and ask you questions, and just that's it. That's all you gotta do. Anyway, so maybe we'll just talk about the Underground Railroad thing sometime. Not tonight, but this is a very controversial subject. If you don't know, it's very controversial. Okay.
Ella McDaniel recounts an oral history that was passed down from her enslaved ancestors. It would work something like this. A plantation seamstress would sew quilts depicting different patterns. The seamstress would hang the quilts in full view, allowing the enslaved men and women to memorize the pattern and its associated meaning. For
Highly
example,
contested.
A quilt with the tumbling blocks pattern would indicate that there was an Underground Railroad agent in the area and that it was time to get ready and go. Did you know? Harriet Powers was one of the many talented African American quilters during the antebellum time period. Once a slave on a rural Georgia plantation, Harriet became a celebrated artist. Born in 1837, Harriet's quilts are the best known examples of historical Black quilting traditions. Using the African applique technique, Harriet depicted stories from spirituals and the Bible on her quilts. Harriet's Bible quilt can now be seen at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. Another one of Harriet's quilts can also be seen at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. Did you know?
You're doing a pretty good job.
Modern-day artists still use quilts as a dynamic storytelling medium. Faith Ringgold is an artist and activist who creates powerful story quilts.
The animation with this is great too. People are, YouTube is great. When it's good, it's really good. These short videos with animation, I just love it.
The street story quilt represents Harlem over 3 different points in time. The quilt is on display at the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art. Bisa Butler is another artist who uses quilts to tell personal and stories.
This is a new one. This is a new one.
Bisa's work can be seen at the Art Institute of Chicago.
This is a more recent video. It's great. You can't use up creativity. Quote from Maya Angelou. Quote, you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. That's really good. You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. Approved.
Thanks for watching Deeper Than Red. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media.
Done. I'm going to subscribe. That was great. I love it. Cool. Well, yeah, I think that was pretty good. I think the Pottery Barn is in 3rd place. I think the Wool Museum was great. It was great. Focused pretty, I don't know. It was good. And that last one was great. I think the Underground Railroad segment, all they really needed to say was that, some people, believe that this, it's allegedly. And the only reason why we would say that it is not the case is because there's not a lot of evidence to say that the Underground Railroad quilt code happened. And it's not because people are, don't believe that it could have happened or whatever. It's just that it's a lot of times that story, which there's not much evidence for, pushes out all these other true stories that are really important to tell about quilts during the Civil War and quilts made by Black people, especially in the South. And so like that story kind of sucks up all the air in the room, and there's not a lot of evidence to actually say that it's true, and that the book that they mentioned, Hidden in Plain View, is like weird. It's just weird. It's written by this weird lady, and I don't know. It's a whole thing. I do a lecture about it, so it's kind of complicated. But anyway, yeah. So lore and oral histories. Oh yeah, let's see. They did say lore. Okay, good. I was eating chips. See, that's my problem. Okay, that's good. I didn't catch it. Faith Ringgold exhibit is coming to San Francisco in July. Heck yeah, that's awesome. I happen to have a book of the exhibit, and it is amazing. Wool for the Win. Yeah, I think Wool really did a good job. Yeah, and that one, they were both great. I would say they both were really good. The Wool and the how African Americans perfected the art of quilting. I love it. So that was a little surprise here at the end. Seeing some videos is fun. And thank you everybody for coming tonight. And thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being part of this. And I will continue to bring you amazing content and be working behind the scenes on all that other stuff that contributes to making a thing, And hopefully I'll have an intern. She'll just do it all for me. I'll talk to y'all soon, and I'll see you on Friday, because shows are now Tuesday night at 7, Saturday night at 8 every single week, and Friday night every other week for Quilters Newsletter Friday. So I'll see you on Friday. Is that right? Yeah, okay. Friday at 7 p.m. for Quilters Newsletter. Get your projects ready and some wine and some snacks, and we'll hang out. Okay, bye everybody. See you later. Bye. Bye.